always find amazing about royal scandals is always new things to find out about that particular story. And it's normally in the twilight of somebody's life, isn't it? They've remembered, they have a letter, they recall, and of course they're always willing to share. Basically because when you think about it, these are the people that were there, that lived through it, and more importantly know exactly what went on behind the scenes. You see, for many years Prince Philip had something of a, shall we say, flamboyant reputation. No two ways about it. But there was this particular story that really set, as they often say, the cat among the pigeons. It was, of course, the prince and the showgirl. As ever, let me explain. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much as ever for joining me today. Yes, Pat Kirkwood was indeed a beautiful star of the 1930s and 40s, right through, in fact, until the 70s. What was interesting about Pat, though, is she often complained that her association with the British monarchy, and in particular His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, actually stopped her career. Now, what emerged, really talking to this former theatrical producer, was in fact that it did a lot to help her career, and perhaps she already knew this but had to play it down. You see, by this particular time in her career, things were going incredibly well. And then, of course, by chance, she met this man. That's right, His Royal Highness Prince Philip. And what was interesting, what followed, was her version of events as to truly what really happened. In 1945, her movie Flight from Folly brought her to the attention of Hollywood, and she was signed by the big studio MGM. But her first project, co-starring Van Johnson, called No Leave, No Love, was a mega flop, and she came to detest Hollywood. She suffered a nervous breakdown and tried sadly to take her own life, spending 8 months in a New York sanitarium. The breakdown cost her the title role in the movie Annie Get Your Gun. Back in England in 1948 in October, Pat Kirkwood was back starring at the London Hippodrome. Many people might know this, of course, as the talk of the town, and it is now simply called the Hippodrome once again. Now, the infamous story goes that backstage that night, Prince Philip and a group of his pals came along to see Pat Kirkwood and basically went backstage to have a chat. And the story goes, of course, that then he invited her for some late supper. But then this happened. They popped along to the Ambassador restaurant in Mayfair, and they followed this on by going to the Milroy nightclub later that night and dancing until dawn. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, because Pat Kirkwood said that she and Philip breakfasted together on scrambled eggs, but always denied a romantic liaison. She said he was so full of life and energy, I suspect he felt trapped and rarely got a chance to be himself. I think that basically we just had a lot of fun in a moment in his life. The bigger problem about this particular royal story was, and it got played out magnificently in the tabloids of the time, as you can imagine, the then, of course, Princess Elizabeth was expected with first child. And the fact that, of course, Prince Philip was out nightclubbing, dancing with showgirls and eating scrambled eggs at dawn with said showgirls didn't go down too well. But the association with the monarchy did Pat no, unfavours at all. In fact, it really sent her career rocketing. Here's why. You see, Noel Coward had decided to write a brand new musical review. Yes, and this time around he was leaving nothing to chance. He decided to write Ace of Clubs, especially for her in 1950, which provided her with the hit song Chase Me Charlie, originally though titled Chase Me Philip. Of course, this was leaked to the press, and more importantly, Pat Kirkwood was furious because she said, I simply can't sing that lyric, no, you know what's going to happen. He, of course, very quickly decided to change it to Charlie, and that became their in-joke. There's a story behind that, though, of course, and that's the reason where Noel got the idea from, apparently. Now, here's where it gets more interesting, because simply after that musical became another mega success, and basically everybody who was anybody wanted to come to see the girl that had so captivated the Duke of Edinburgh, Pat Kirkwood was the very first lady to land her own TV series on the BBC, literally her own sort of half variety hour. And also in the documents well below in the BBC are the reasons for the fact that they needed people to start to tune in and buy televisions. And what better way than having somebody with such a notorious past as Pat Kirkwood? People, they felt, the BBC, may tune in to see this particular lady that had apparently, caught the eye of Prince Philip, and I'm using that word loosely. It's fascinating to find these things out, isn't it? This particular gentleman, as I say, is still very much with us, still very much got all of his memory intact, and more importantly, was literally there throughout all of these endeavours. As I say, when you look at royal history and scandal, there's always new corners to turn. And more importantly, while I'm not suggesting anything untoward happened between, of course, the actress and the prince, it's fascinating to note that even back then, that sort of association, and when you look back even further, Edward VII and Lily Langtry could simply turn heads. Fascinating stuff. You agree? As ever, if you've enjoyed it, please like and share, and don't forget to comment. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.